I used to think betrayal was something that only happened to other people, the kind of story you hear, shake your head at, and move on from, not something that would ever find its way into my life. But I was wrong. And the cruelest part? I paid for the very affair that destroyed my marriage. My name's Lucas. I'm 35 now, but I met Nora when I was 26. It was at a charity fundraiser for a local art center. She was at the front desk, handing out programs with that easy smile that made people feel like they were part of her secret. There wasn't anything flashy about her, but she had this quiet confidence that pulled me in. I was there representing my construction firm, which had donated materials to the project. She was volunteering just because she liked to help. By the end of that evening, I knew I wanted to see her again. Coffee 2 days later, dinner a week after that, and within a month, we were inseparable. 2 years later, we set our vows beneath a canopy of lights at her parents' vineyard. She looked at me like she could already see our future. Home, kids, everything. For the first 6 years, it really did feel perfect. We bought a cozy house in the suburbs, adopted a golden retriever named Scout, and built a steady rhythm together. I worked long hours in project management. She coordinated events for a resort. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was good. We had small fights, sure, but they never lasted. She was always good at talking things through. Or she used to be. My grandfather was the kind of man who built everything he had from the ground up, a real estate empire that started with one broken-down house. Before he passed, he gave me one piece of advice. Trust people, but protect yourself in case you're wrong. When Nora and I got engaged, he insisted on a prenuptial agreement. I didn't like the idea. It felt cold, unromantic, but he wouldn't let it go. I finally brought it up to Nora, expecting a fight. Instead, she smiled and said she understood that love wasn't about money. So we signed it. The terms were simple. Any inheritance I received stayed mine, and if infidelity ever caused a divorce, the guilty partner would only get a minimal settlement. At the time, it felt like unnecessary paperwork. Years later, it would save me. Around year 7, Nora started struggling. Her job was wearing her down. She said she couldn't sleep, that she felt anxious and burnout. I supported her completely when she said she wanted to try therapy. She found a guy named Dr. Stephen Lang, polished, middle-aged, and apparently excellent at his job. Each session cost about $150, some covered by insurance, the rest from our joint account. At first, therapy seemed to help. She came home lighter, calmer. Then little things changed. She started dressing up for her sessions. Full makeup, perfume, outfit she usually reserved for date nights. When I joked about it, she said, "You never know who you'll bump into." Soon, her appointments started running late. Evening sessions, she said. Breakthrough work. She'd come home glowing. Not the kind of glow you get from emotional release, but something else. I tried not to jump to conclusions. Then her phone started buzzing constantly. She said it was a support group her therapist had suggested. But one night, I caught a glimpse of her screen. The name at the top of her messages? Dr. Lang. A few months later, my grandfather passed away. He left me $2.1 million and a rental property. It should have been a bittersweet moment. But Nora's reaction wasn't grief. It was calculation. She wanted to know how much I got when I'd get it and how we could invest it together. When I reminded her that the prenup kept my inheritance separate, she laughed. "What's yours is mine, right?" she said. That laugh stuck with me. Soon after, her therapy sessions increased to 3 times a week. 2 months later, I had to fly out for a work trip. The last night wrapped up early, and I caught an earlier flight home. I didn't tell Nora. I wanted to surprise her. I pulled into the driveway around 6 p.m. Her car was there. Another one, a silver sedan, sat beside it. The house was quiet. Then I heard her laugh upstairs. That laugh. I climbed the stairs and stopped at our bedroom door. It was open just enough for me to see exactly what I needed to. Nora, my wife, in bed with Dr. Lang, the therapist whose sessions I'd been paying for. I didn't say a word. I recorded them, waited until she noticed me, then turned and walked out. I spent the night in a hotel. By morning, my lawyer had everything. the video, the prenup, and receipts for every therapy payment. He said it was one of the clearest cases he'd ever seen. Dr. Lang's life collapsed within weeks. I filed a complaint, and it turned out I wasn't his only victim. His wife, yes, he had one, divorced him, and his license was revoked. Nora tried to fix it. She begged, cried, said it was just one mistake. I told her she'd made that mistake for 6 months, on my dime. When she realized what the prenup meant, she panicked. She left the courthouse with just $40,000, half our joint savings. She screamed that I'd ruined her life. But the truth was, she'd done that herself. I bought a quiet condo overlooking the bay. New job, smaller team, less stress. Scout's still with me, loyal as ever. Nora lost the house, her job, and eventually her reputation. She's now a receptionist for a catering company. Dr. Lang? Last I heard, he's selling used cars in another state. I used to feel guilty for having a prenup. Now I realize it wasn't about distrust. It was about self-respect. People reveal who they are when they think you're not watching. Nora thought she could play me. She ended up with nothing but regret. 6 months after the divorce, I was rebuilding. My mornings were quiet. Coffee on the balcony. Scout at my feet. The sun climbing over the water. The silence was heavy at first, but it became comforting. Then Nora started messaging again. Late-night texts, long emails full of apologies. She wanted closure. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet for coffee. She looked like a ghost of the woman I once knew. Hair dull, eyes tired, hands trembling. She cried almost immediately, saying she didn't mean for it to happen, that Dr. Lang had taken advantage of her vulnerability. Then she admitted the truth. She thought she'd be happier without me, especially after learning about my inheritance. I asked if she planned to leave after getting her share. She looked down and whispered, "I thought I would." That was all I needed to hear. Months later, I heard she'd been evicted, broke, cut off by her parents. Her affair had cost her everything. Not just money, but the comfort she'd taken for granted. Meanwhile, my life was moving forward. The rental property provided steady income, and I'd started seeing someone new, Mira, a marine biologist I met at the park when Scout knocked over her picnic basket. She didn't ask about my past right away. She just let me breathe. When I eventually told her everything, she said, "You didn't deserve that, but I'm glad you made it through." Her words healed something I didn't know was still broken. Almost a year after all, I ran into Nora again by accident at a farmer's market. She was working a catering booth, wearing a wrinkled uniform, thinner than ever. We exchanged awkward small talk. Then she noticed Mira beside me and asked softly, "Is this your girlfriend?" When Mira smiled and nodded, Nora's eyes filled with tears. "I'm glad someone like her found you," she said quietly before walking away. For the first time, I saw genuine humility in her. And I didn't feel anger anymore, just pity. A few weeks ago, I visited my grandfather's grave and told him everything. How his advice had saved me, not just financially, but emotionally. I realized that forgiveness isn't about letting someone back in. It's about releasing yourself from needing them to understand what they destroyed. These days, peace doesn't roar. It whispers. It's Scout's steady breathing beside me, the warmth of Mira's laughter, the quiet certainty that I'm finally safe in my own life again. Sometimes karma doesn't strike loudly. Sometimes it just settles softly, in the form of peace. And after everything that burned, peace is more than enough.